So listen, thanks for coming on. It's exciting to talk to you. Um, I was listening to you this morning on Adrian's show on Rise and Pod. Um, so there's some stuff that came up in that I need to ask you about, but we'll get to that later on. Um, and you were on. So the only other podcast I could find that you did was like Health Span Academy.
And yeah, that was my first podcast.
Okay. And then you've done some of Nate's vlogs and stuff around Deca and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff as well. How do you find that? How do you find like being on stuff and being recorded and it being
I'm
uploaded and stuff?
getting used to it. I mean, I'm not sure if you saw me on Craig's channel too at Wadapalooza, but the first time that he stuck the camera in my face, I was like, I just threw up. And so, okay, maybe we need a little bit of censorship here because this is going out to a mass of people on the internet who can
Mm.
interpret it for whatever it is. But at the same time, I've always been told just be yourself, and people like you for who you are. Or if they don't, they don't, and that's fine. So, I'm just trying to keep it real and just be myself.
Yeah, I think it's definitely good advice because it's very easy it's very easy to fall into the trap of, oh, I wonder what people will find funny or what people will like, what they'll like or what they won't like, and then trying to stick to that, and then you end up forgetting what some people like and what some people don't like. I think you're better off. I think as well people find it funny when
Yeah.
athletes do stuff like that. It would have been even worse if you'd been caught on camera getting sick. But apart from that,
Yeah.
um, so one of the things that came up on the episode with Adrian. So what was your what was your athletic background before CrossFit?
Highland dancing.
Yeah. So this is I think I have a video here.
Oh,
Uh Not of you. Not of
okay.
you. I'm not that good. Um so let's see. Can I? Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not
There's
sure how loud this is gonna be. So is that what you did?
yeah, that's the thing.
And is it always that repetitive?
Yeah. So you get basically set dance, and then when you're at a competition, everyone's doing the same steps, but you're judged individually. So it's an individual sport, even though you're next to 3 to 4 people on stage.
Okay.
And at the end of all the dances, you're all brought back on stage, and then they list off first place, second place, third place, and you bow and get your medal. And at the end, there's a trophy for the highest points and whatnot. So it's very competitive, and I would do a competition like once a week.
Where are you? You're from Canada.
Yeah.
Right. So I need some kind of explanation there. Is Highland dancing big in Canada?
You know what? You'd be surprised. Canada is, I want to say, the second largest population of, Highland dancing, or we have a huge Scottish community. And the Canadian Championships for Highland dancing are one of the biggest competitions in the world for the sport. So
Wow.
I, it's kind of weird that it is, but a lot of us will travel overseas to Scotland and compete at worlds there. But yeah, we have a solid community here.
Is Freya is a Scottish name, isn't it?
No, it's not actually.
Isn't
It's
it?
Icelandic. Well, Annie Thor's daughter named her kid.
Okay.
Yeah, after
Uh,
me. No.
she saw you, no, I suppose the puking at Wadapalooza was after. Yeah, no, that's not. Um, okay, all right, okay. I assumed. And have you got Scottish heritage?
Actually, none at all. So there, I can draw a parallel between how I started Highland dancing and CrossFit. I just watched a YouTube video of Highland dancing, believe it or not, and I was like, "Yeah, mom, I want to do that at 10 years old." Um,
Wow.
with CrossFit, I watched the documentaries, and I'm like, "I want to do that." So it's kind of I got my inspiration online for both of the sports.
God, imagine if you had watched like fencing or like with sledgehammers and wooden posts, or if you'd watched a video of like, I don't know, You know those unboxing,
Yeah.
it's like, "Hi guys, welcome back to my channel," and it's like unboxing toys. If you had seen that instead of CrossFit, how different your life would be. So then, like, just looking at the dancing, then it's like, I assume you just have insane single leg strength and like balance. Like double unders must have been a piece of piss when you started doing those.
Yeah, actually the jumping and I was able to do high box jumps when I first joined the sport. I was pretty small and nimble and the jumping came naturally. Double unders, just like everybody else, I kind of felt like an idiot trying them, and I actually was too stubborn to join CrossFit until I learned how to double under and do a handstand push up. So for I think 3 months in my garage beforehand, I was practicing double unders and getting upside down, and then I was like, okay, I can do them, so I contacted my local box and then joined there.
Why were those the two skills? Like, because there's a lot of skills in
Yeah,
CrossFit. Why did those two stand out?
honestly, I don't know. I think I just saw another YouTube video of people doing handstand push-ups. I'm like, well, I can't do that yet. I don't want to look like an idiot. I want to look like I know what I'm doing before I join. And then double unders, I think with my dance background, it was assumed that I would be good at that. So I was like, okay, I have to show people that I am.
Yeah. What age were you when you finished Highland dancing then? If you started when you were 10.
I was 17 when I stopped.
Wow,
So
okay.
years, yeah. And then I for a little bit as a kid growing up too, so I have 10 plus years of other dance experience.
What was the other dance you did, sorry?
I did like all of the classic stuff like ballet, tap, jazz, lyrical.
And like, are either of your parents dancers or what? Like, because it's a broad spectrum of dance.
Yeah, it just like, after school, you go to your local studio and you do like your from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. You just move through the classes. And then, at the end of the year, you do your recital, your show, and parents come and watch you. It was very recreational. But then when I got into Highland dancing, that was more competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you brothers or sisters?
I have a stepsister, and she dances as well. She's 24, and she just graduated school and is has a full time job now. But she comes to my CrossFit competitions. She's super into it, and I actually got her doing CrossFit now.
That's cool. Um, and when did she become your stepsister? Like, when were you guys introduced or whatever?
Oh, we're more. I would say we're more close friends than sisters because we haven't known each other for that long. We
Yeah.
both met in more in our adult age, but
Okay.
I consider her a sister.
And okay, so because I'm trying to kind of pinpoint the competitive drive, because usually it's a sibling thing. So like, what
Yeah.
like it's yeah, because like it's interesting that you'd see a dance and like a video of a dance and pick that you wanted to compete at it rather than like just learn the dance, you wanted to compete at it. And the same with CrossFit, because I've heard you talk about that a few times where you say like that a lot of people kind of go, oh, I want to get in shape, or I want to lose weight, or I want to, be part of a community or whatever. Whereas you were like, I want to go to the games after watching the documentary. So, like, have you ever thought about where that kind of competitive, it's not even competitive spirit, it's like just a sheer like will or determination. Do you know where that comes from?
My mom says I was like that as a kid with everything. I mean, if I like being 3 years old, I would want to reach something from the top shelf and I would climb on the counter without help and get there no matter whatever it took. So I think, it is just who I am as a person. And I think in school I was very competitive and driven and, always got good grades and, you know, before I found CrossFit, before this kind of turned more into a career and a job, I was very school driven and oriented. So, I mean, just with whatever I do, I think I was just all in.
And has it ever like had adverse effects? Like, have you ever had like, stress, or, like, have you ever felt under pressure being competitive?
Oh, for sure. I think, in my dance career, there's many times where, you'd face a roadblock, you'd get injured, there'd be obstacles that you'd have to overcome. A competition wouldn't go the way you wanted it to. But I think that's what makes it even more addictive is, okay, something didn't happen the way I wanted it to, I have to work even harder for the outcome. And then that victory is even sweeter because of how hard you had to work to get there.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's my answer.
Um, when you started doing CrossFit, then like, so, so if you had some push-ups and double unders going in, did you like, did you walk in like a ringer? Like, were you like, oh, double unders, what are they? And then just start like buying that and be like, oh, I have to go upside down now, and then just do like 10 handstand push-ups, or were you like, oh, I've been practicing these for like 2 months?
Um, from what I remember, I think I was super gung ho. Like my on ramp, the first workout that I did was Karen. I think with like a 10 or 12 pound ball to 9 foot target, and I tried to go unbroken for as long as I could. I got like 50 plus wall balls in the first set. So I was like, yeah, like I'm going to give it my all. But then I was very much the athlete that didn't know how to pace. And I still struggle with that now. And, I just crashed and burned in pretty much every single workout that I did for the year.
And do you, like, can you remember? Obviously, if your original goal going in was, oh, I want to go to the games, I'm assuming that even if you never had this moment, you still would have kept going. But can you remember a moment where you thought like, okay, I actually have this. I have like what I think I need to do it.
Um, I don't think I actually felt that until last year, making semifinals. I think my goal last year was just to make quarterfinals, and I blew that out of the water, and I was super pumped. I was like, okay, sweet. Well, semifinals are online, so I'm just gonna take it for the opportunity that it is. And I had my whole home gym watch me for each event, and that was super special. And I think it's a once in a lifetime opportunity because from now on out, I think all the competitions will be in person, and not everyone will get to travel to those. Yeah,
Fingers crossed.
but uh, but yeah, I think last year when I was able to get through all 6 of those events, and with as little experience that I had, still coming up pretty close in terms of points margins and placings relative to the other girls in the field, I was like, okay, well, next year I want to make the games. And so that's kind of on the track that I am now. But
Yeah.
I think for all the years previous, I knew that I was playing the long game, and I knew that I lacked experience in terms of as an athlete and competitive wise. And I just needed time to develop skills and strength. And so I knew that, okay, I'm not going to be a teenage CrossFit Games athlete. I know that I'm not good enough yet, but I'm going to wait for when it actually matters.
What age are you now?
I'm 20.
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, not far off teenage, to be fair.
Yeah.
And when did you start working with Michelle?
September of last year.
Okay, so after semifinals, after the game season had settled, I suppose. What like did were you doing DECA anyway, and then reached out, or did you just reach out yourself, or did she reach out to you, or how did that happen?
Yeah, so that's that summer after semifinals, I was kind of just doing whatever workout I found on Instagram, making up my own, just having fun with it just for the summer. And then I was like, okay, new season approaching. I have this lofty goal of making the games. So I want to get serious and follow a program because I know that's where success comes from. So, Michelle was obviously a huge inspiration, and I've been following her since I started the sport because she's a Canadian icon.
Hmm.
And so I was like, okay, I'll do DECA comp. And immediately when I signed up for their elite programming, she herself reached out through me via email. And she's like, hey, I have a spot on my roster. Do you want to join? And I shit my pants. Yes. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And has she ever said like why she reached out? Because I'm assuming a lot of people. I'm even just assuming a lot of people like sign up for the elite track who have no business signing up for the elite track on loads of different programs, like not just DECA. But I'm assuming a lot of people are like, oh, like this is my year, and they sign up, and then they're like, oh Jesus, what am I doing? And they back out. So like, had she seen you? Had she like you know been witness to your performance at Atlas, or like was there something? Has she ever said why she emailed?
Yeah. So I felt that way too. I was like, "Ooh, am I good enough to sign up for this? I don't know. Like, I'll just do the free trial and see like if I can keep up."
Hmm.
But to sign up, DECA is really smart in terms of you have to put in your benchmarks, you have to put in your strength numbers, you know, your competitive history and experience, and then they'll okay you to do that because they're doing that primarily for safety reasons,
Hmm.
which is commendable for that company.
Hmm.
And so I think with saying that I was a previous semifinals athlete, that popped up for her. Then she's like, okay, who's Freya Moosebrugger? You look through my Instagram and my YouTube videos because I posted my events and whatnot, and they are public to see. And so she's like, okay, she has potential. I'll take her on.
That's cool. Um, that's really cool. How do you say your surname, actually, while we're on full names?
So it's Austrian, and we say it Moosebrugger, but Canadianized, they take the piss out of it and call it Mooseburger.
Yeah, because
Uh,
it's B
Moose,
R U G.
Moosebrugger.
Yeah, is that like so? If you were introducing yourself to someone, would you say Moosebrugger?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't really roll off the tongue.
yeah,
But then yeah, because I remember I think that's how we first got in touch
yeah.
was was it at Wadapalooza, I think, where someone called you Moose Burger and I like took the piss out of the fact that they were getting your name wrong and you're like, yeah, no, this is just my life. This is this is just the reality of being me.
Well, at Wadapalooza, we had to say how to pronounce her names in the microphone,
Okay.
and it was just like a passing by thing, and I just said Moose Burger, so it doesn't like I don't clarify it, and so I remember for the first event when we were doing the sled flip and
Yeah.
the double under GHG, um, you know, the announcer on the name was like, "There's Freya Mooseburger, great GHGs and a great last name." I had to stop myself from laughing in the middle of the event. It was so funny.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah. Yeah, I guess if you're just walking past and saying your name, you're not going to be like, well, it's actually Austrian. You know, like start going into the whole story.
Whatever. It fits well. I mean, with Canadian, we have moose up here. It's yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming when people see your name on the leaderboard, they see the Canadian flag, their brain, you know, the way your brain, if you read, I can't remember what it is, but there's certain, like your brain covers up spelling mistakes. So if you read
Yeah.
words, it auto arranges them to be like you can put an L in the middle of a word and your brain
Yeah.
won't even scan it. So I'm
Well,
assuming they see Canadian flag, moose, and then B, and they just say it's obviously a moose burger. That's obviously the national dish of Canada, and she's named after that.
yeah. Yeah, it's like I'm Canadian or something almost.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's cool. That's cool. Um, yeah. So when you started working with Michelle, then, so when she reached out first, you, I hope metaphorically, shit your pants, and then after you started working with her, so uh, you started in September, and then Wadapalooza was in January. Was that your like? Had you met her between September and January? Say.
Yeah, I met her just to meet as person to person. We hung out, got coffee, went for a little run, but as far as working one on one with her, didn't have a ton of experience. So I think Wadapalooza, when we went down to train for a couple days before Miami, that was kind of like a real get in the business type of situation. And, you know, I've been fortunate enough now since Miami to go for a full week I had with her in Montreal. And also, we went to the island with Pat, and she came here locally, and all as well as our quarterfinals experience as well. So I've had a ton of experience with Michelle now, but at Wadapalooza, it was still very new.
So sorry, when you met her, you went for coffee, and then you went for a run. Like, because like you're so you're one of those kind of unique like new breed of CrossFitters who was a fan of the sport in the same way that I was a fan of the sport.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to imagine how I would react if, like, you know, she is to you what Josh Bridges is to me. So I'm trying to imagine like meeting up with Josh, like getting an email off Josh Bridges to coach me. Like, I mean, this is literally never going to happen. But like meeting up with him, having a coffee, and then him saying like, "Hey, do you want to go for a run?" And I'm trying to imagine how I'd react like in that scenario? Are you like when that kind of stuff is happening? Are you playing it cool? Are you totally chill with it, or are you like, oh, you need to calm the fuck down and like don't fall over and don't say anything stupid?
It's so cool. Like a year ago, I wouldn't have imagined that, I'm meeting the people I am now or doing the things that I am. So I think when you're in the moment, you just take it in stride. But then when I'm by myself, I take a moment to sit down. I'm like, wow, like this is really cool what's happening. But I think in the moment, you just realize there are people too, and you're just trying to get as much experience or get the whole experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool. It's refreshing to hear as well because I think it's easy to downplay it. So it's nice that you do let yourself think like, oh, that was cool, or like, oh, that was an abnormal situation I just found myself in. So Atlas Games last year, then you finished 12th,
Yeah.
and that was when it was online.
Yeah.
Um, and then you had Wadapalooza, and you finished 10th at Wadapalooza. So like the upward trajectory
Oh,
is on track. Um, was Wadapalooza? Had you done any like local comps then before like Atlas, or before had you done like things around your house, like around your home gym?
a charity event in the States, and it was a team competition and a local throwdown, but nothing of the scale even remotely close to Wadapalooza or Atlas Games for that matter. But it kind of reminded me of just like going to another gym to train at, not so much as a competition. Like
Hmm.
there's some even bigger competitions that happen in my area that I didn't do previous to what I am doing now.
And like when you go down to like you qualify for Wadapalooza, I suppose, and you're excited and it's
Yeah.
great. And then like when the reality starts to set in of like, when you see the other names on the leaderboard and there's people there who would have been in those documentaries that you saw. And then like I guess it's one thing doing it on online for Atlas, but then I suppose putting myself in that situation, I'd probably have a nagging voice in my head being like, maybe it was a fluke. Like maybe Atlas, because it was online, was different. And then this is going to be the big. Like, were you nervous going into Wadapalooza, or was it just like pure excitement?
Definitely nervous. I think it was different. I did the online qualifier for one second in that. But then all the big names were there due to invite. So I really didn't know how I stacked up against any of them. And so I was like, okay, this is literally just for experience and nothing's at stake. So literally just have fun with it. People have told me that Wadapalooza is one of the most fun competitions of the year, even more fun than the games because there's no risk to it.
Yeah,
And it's only 2 events a day. It's not like a beat down what the games are.
yeah. Um, and so before you went to Miami, or before you went to Wadapalooza, anyway, you had there was a little camp, wasn't there, with like Vellner and Ellie and you? Is that right?
Yeah, we all met in Miami for the first time there.
Yeah.
Got pretty quickly, and then we kind of were just the trio down in Miami there.
And then did you train together afterwards?
Uh, so we did Wadapalooza, and then Pat and Ellie came to Canada for quarterfinals. So that's the second
Okay.
other
And how was that?
quarters.
It just even being with them, because like that environment, like like you're obviously an incredible athlete,
Thank
but
you.
for anyone, I think to be, it's that iron sharpens iron thing, and like Vellner's seen it, done it like
Yeah.
countless times. Like Ellie is, the future of her continent probably in the
Yeah.
sport. Like it's like is it another kind of thing of trying to just take in your stride and then afterwards like hyperventilating when you go back to your room?
Well, it was definitely intimidating. I think that first day in Miami, we had just gone to Whole Foods. I'd eaten a whole bucket of potatoes, and then we show up to the gym, and Pat is like, "Okay, well, Michelle wants us to do Fran sprints with an Echo bike." And that was like the first workout that all three of us were doing together downtown Miami. It was humid, fans were going. There's so many people there. and he's like, who wants to go first? So I'm like, I'll go. And I on the bike, do the thrusters, do the chest bar, and then I race to the bathroom. And then that's where Craig shows up with his camera. And that whole experience was just super overwhelming. And it was the day before we were competing, my first time at Wodapalooza. So I think once I got over that, and that was kind of worst case scenario, I
Yeah.
got that. I'm like, okay, like these people still think I'm cool. Judgment, I'll hang out with them again. And, just as the week went on, I gained so much wisdom and helpful tips from both Ellie and Pat. They helped me navigate the competition. Same with Michelle. So I mean, I'm super grateful for them. And even Ellie, as a competitor at that competition, we were super close, and we still are, and we're great friends. So it was awesome to build those connections and relationships while we were there.
Is it disappointing then when you heard that she was going with Adam and Justin? Was that like, because obviously if you're
Yeah.
friendly with someone and then you're doing the same program and stuff, that's a natural link. But then I suppose the flip side is you always hear that the great athletes rarely train with a partner of their own gender. Like it's usually with a guy with a girl or a girl with a guy. Does that play into it at all?
Yeah, I think, I that means that I'm not going to see her as much during the year, but I will still get to see her at competitions, and we still text and talk through Instagram and message. So I think, I'm super happy for her, and it takes a lot of guts to make that change. And, it was so public. So I'm happy for her, and, she qualified for the games. So it was obviously good for her. And, hopefully I get my ticket and then we can see each other again. But yeah, I think for her in the long run, she has to do what's necessary and what makes her
Mm,
happy. So, I'm nothing but love for her.
yeah. Is it weird, like being surrounded by? Because obviously Vellner, like, he's a popular guy, with everyone, like fans, and but especially with media, like where that's where like the vloggers tend to gravitate towards, or the photographers, or there might be like brands showing up to do things with him and stuff. Like, is it odd being in those kind of scenarios, or because you've kind of, I suppose, uh, developed as a CrossFitter in that era of the documentaries and Instagram and all that kind of stuff, are you kind of just going in expecting that to be the case and not kind of weirded out by it?
Um, they're like I'd say in the beginning, it's something that nobody's used to, like having a camera in your face. But I totally understand that it's a job, and he's very good at being able to compartmentalize, where it's like, okay, this is time for my career and it's time for training, and not they don't blend. It's very much separated, and I think that's smart and something I've taken into consideration for my own career.
Mm,
um, as far as the deca comp photographer, we're all buddy buddy with everybody, and I'm developing my own relationships within the sport, outside of who Pat is related to as well.
yeah. When you're at Wadapalooza, then did you like that's your first competition, like your first big competition, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, huge competition. So when you're at that kind of thing, you mentioned there that you kind of were, I guess, shepherded along a bit by Pat and Michelle and Ellie on, like on, I suppose, like maybe you had more of a leg up than others would have at their first one, of kind of having a sense of what was coming and what to avoid. And, I don't mean with the workouts, but just it'd be very easy to become overwhelmed in that kind of situation. And, even like I was at semifinals in, uh, the Netherlands last week, and like I was looking at people who are competing, sitting and watching, or standing and watching other events like later on, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, you should be like, just, I was like, the noise, the lights, the sound, like it's a constant sensory bombardment. And then I like just get out, like just go out somewhere quiet and then lie down somewhere and then come back. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people learn as they go in the sport, whereas maybe you had like a bit of a boost of someone kind of saying like, hey, maybe we should probably leave, or we'd usually leave around now. Like, was there any point of, say, the competition where you were tempted to just be like, oh no, I just want to like stay here and absorb all of this, and then needed to kind of be told like, these are the things we were talking about?
Yeah, I don't think so because, one thing that I tell myself to keep calm, especially in a competitive situation, is I've had so much competitive experience with my dance background,
Of course.
competing weekend, that I know already how to compete. So it wasn't even a second thought like, oh, I want to stay and watch the other heats. So it was like, you have a job to do, you show up, do that job, and then the rest is recovery, getting your mind off of things. It's not, you're not there to party or anything. So I think, and also just from little casual reminders from Michelle as well. She knows exactly what she's doing, and whatever she says goes, and no questions asked. That's just how I respect her as an athlete. She doesn't expect that of us, but that's just how I choose to go about it.
Hmm. Um, After Water Please, then you had the Open and then quarterfinals, and I suppose the Open is different the last couple of years where there isn't that intense pressure of you need to do X, Y, or Z. It's, for people of your caliber, it's kind of like do the workout on a Friday and train in the afternoon as normal, or whatever. It's just kind of a workout. Um, when the Open is over and when quarterfinals are over, are you like, is the slate totally wiped clean going into semifinals? Are you kind of, do you pick little positives from both that you focus on? Do you disregard it completely because it's so different? Like, how do you deal with that?
Um, Yeah, well, I for sure take into consideration my performance in any competition I do, whether it's the Open, even though it's so early on in the season, you still have to see where you stack up relative to other people. So I definitely look up times, compare where I'm at, even relative men's to women's field as well, because you're just trying to become the best athlete that you can. And then quarterfinals was more of a unique experience because the three of us got together in person. So that felt more like a competition.
Hmm.
At our heats, Ellie and I sometimes went head on. So that was cool. Um, but I think going into semis, it's in person. So that's completely different. You can't knock anyone out. But then it's also, you're kind of playing your own race within the 9 people that you're on with on the floor. So I feel like online is more stressful because you have no clue
Hmm.
who's going what pace. And then once you get in person, it's a new environment, but you also have people to gauge off of. So I think that's, something that I'm looking forward to as well, because I really do feed off of that in person environment.
Yeah. Do you talk about like, because I know like Pat's great at, he kind of often says things like there's, it's one thing to know the information, it's another thing to understand when you need to know it and when you can just disregard it, and that you can be kind of become overwhelmed by lane looking or leaderboard checking or all that kind of stuff, and then there comes a point where it's like, okay, I know that information, but just forget it because it actually doesn't impact anything here, or that kind of thing. Like, have you thought about, say, how you might react? Like you mentioned there that if you're at Atlas online last year and a workout goes badly, you generally don't know it, like how badly it's gone, until maybe the next evening or whatever, 9 p.m. or whatever. Whereas you're going to know within like the sound of the buzzer. Like you're
Yeah.
going to look around and be like, "Oh fuck," or you're going to look around and be like, "Woohoo!" Like one or the other. Um, like, have you thought about, or has Wadapalooza helped you with that? Maybe about how, like, how you process events, good or bad, after they're over. Like, are you going to give yourself a certain window to be like, okay, I can think and talk about this, and then I need to just shut it down and move on, or is that anything that you've considered?
Yeah, I think online, having to wait for that leaderboard to refresh the next day, that's way more stressful. So, going in person and being able to look around and, running to the finish line and having that hit of endorphins where your family's there, the fans are cheering, and it's like, yeah, like I just finished a workout. And no matter what, you still finished it, you got through it, you can still feel proud of your effort, even though maybe you came like bottom 10 in that workout, whatever. I just think the highs and lows of competing in person are so much better than that online experience. So I think, you have to take it for what it is. And, I'm definitely going to, play off of the field when I'm in an event, but also stick to my game and what I know are my capabilities. So it's kind of a catch-22.
Have you watched any of the other semifinals?
Oh yeah, I especially the events that I'm doing, the barbell complex and the legless. I'm just trying to learn as much as I can. We have a little group chat, Michelle, Pat, and I, and we're texting in there and figuring out what we can do best and how to execute on game day. But I think it's the field is different for each competition.
Mm,
The events are different in different order. And so the fatigue will feel different for whatever we do. So I think there's a little bit less stress knowing that the other 29 girls that you're competing against are going to go through the exact same things that you are. And the girls that compete at Syndicate, they're in their own different field and they're done.
yeah. Um, how many times have you practiced the two workouts that you know are coming up, like say the legless and the
We practice variations. It's hard to do the legless one because of the measurements on the floor. So my gym doesn't have just a one pedal. I've literally had to run around the rig a couple times and then do a rope climb.
yeah,
And I'm dodging personal training clients that are kind and not. So that's a little bit weird. But I think with the adrenaline on game day, like that one I'm most looking forward to. I'm super excited for that legless event. And then of course
yeah.
the lifting, we've done different complexes with that, trying out different numbers, but I have a good sense of what I'm gonna hit and what my goal weight is.
So are you when you know you have three lifts, is it like, a gimme, your plan for the day, and then like a Hail Mary at the end of like, fuck it.
Yeah, yeah, like a Hail Mary within 5 pounds,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
not
yeah.
too extreme. But, there's been times where I'm pushing the envelope in training and it's at the end of the week and I'm like, okay, I know if I'm fresh, I can hit this. And then
Yeah.
that'll be like the super pump at the end, be like, yeah, like I did that, throw the bar down. Like, right?
Do you know where that's coming in the a weekend? Do you know if it's going to be 1 or 6 or 4 or where?
I don't think it's going to be one just because we got the schedule and one of the events is scored for weight. And
Okay.
that's 4. So it's going to be similar to Lowlands where they had their barbell complex a little bit later in their schedule.
Yeah.
So the fatigue will set in depending if we do a leg intensive or grip intensive workout beforehand. So we'll figure it out when the time comes. And honestly, I think it'll come down to warming up in the back for that barbell complex and seeing, okay, this feels good, I'll do that.
Yeah. Well, I guess like you say, it's the same when everyone's has the same like routine. It's a level playing field. Like it's different, you know. Say even with quarterfinals when you can be like, oh fuck it, I'll do event 6 now first, and then like, and then that thing comes in of like, was that a mistake? Or other people doing this? Like, whereas when you're all doing the events in the same order, you're kind of stuck.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we did event 1 for quarterfinals as our third event of the day on day 1. So we were just tired by then, but we just did it. And then we were like, oh, that was maybe a little bit of a mistake because all our times are pretty shit relative to everybody else.
Are you excited about Atlas? Like, is this going to be like peak?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, was lucky to go to Montreal to train with Michelle, and I met, some of the community there. And they're all super great people, super friendly, nice. And so I'm excited to see some people that I've met and recognize. And then I have a good crew coming from BC with me. So I'll definitely be able to soak up the cheers and have a little crowd at the end of the finish line each event.
Yeah, Greg is he's emceeing that. He'll get your name right, and he'll definitely pass comment on it as well. So you'll have that to look forward to. Um, are you having to like? Because I know, like, say I saw Pat put up a post today where he was like, that he's still working, but that
Anxious.
he's getting a bit impatient. Like it's kind of like because it is. I suppose it's exciting. Like you get that added thing of you're getting to watch other people do the workouts that you're going to do, and or vaguely similar ones. We know the CrossFit put out these bumpers for the other workouts. We don't really know what they are, but you can kind of see a trend across all the events. Um, but then there's also the thing of like you're kind of waiting and waiting, and it must feel like an endless wait. Like, are you having to kind of you know temper your excitedness a bit? Are you having to kind of like because obviously you could get to it and be like emotionally burnt out before you even like walk on the floor the first time.
For sure. I mean, training has been super hard the last month, so Pat and I are just holding on for that taper. uh, but watching it can definitely get emotionally draining. But I think, once we get in the taper and we're feeling good, and Michelle's a wizard at what she does, when we step out or when we go to actually check in, like the adrenaline will be going and we'll feel like this whole month hasn't even happened.
Hmm. Yeah, you'll force yourself to forget. It's a protective thing that your brain does, where it. um, and like it was said that you were at Atlas, did you like immediately go and look at who else was at Atlas?
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because there's a lot of girls that, I don't know and I've never competed against. But I'm looking forward to meeting and seeing how we do relative to each other on the field. But it should be an interesting competition. And, with Morning Chalk saying it's anyone's game, that's very motivating for sure.
Yeah, like because I was actually looking yesterday at Atlas last year and Atlas this year. And a lot of
Yeah.
the people who finished ahead of you at Atlas last year were at different competitions this year. We're at different like semi-finals. Um, do you pay any attention to that? Or are you just like it's totally irrelevant, so don't point thinking of it that way? Or are you a little bit like, well, if I finished 12th and then if those three people are gone, that's ninth.
Well, I definitely do take that into consideration, but at the same time, this who I am as an athlete last year compared to this year is completely different, and it's also different events. So, I
Yeah.
mean, you can't really dwell on last year that much. And I know that it's like a completely blank slate for me. And, I've worked so hard on the stuff that kept me out last year that it's not even a question now. So I'm really excited to kind of prove to myself and as well show the world, what I've been working on.
Yeah. It's exciting though as well because I know you like, you mentioned Michelle is like a Canadian icon, but you've got like Carolyn Prevost is there as well, and like it is exciting. And then Emma Lawson, like
Yeah.
another one of the futures of the sport. Like it's exciting. Um, like I know you're excited, and I know you've got your goal of that you want to go to the games, but I hope you're proud of where you are and who you're going to be surrounded by as well, because it is remarkable. Like I think it's easy when you're you know an elite athlete, I assume, because I'm not one, but I assume it's easy to kind of forget like how amazing it is what you can do. Like that because you can get to the stage of like, oh, cool, I'm at semifinals. Now I need to qualify for semifinals. And it's easy to gloss over the fact that like, fuck, I'm at semifinals. Like this is like top 0.2% of the sport. Like it's crazy.
Well, I definitely don't take anything for granted. And, being able to be healthy and compete for another year. I know I'm young and I want to do this for a long time. So, as many times that I can make semifinals, I think it's an accomplishment in itself. But I think it's also healthy to have that carrot to chase. And,
Mm,
last year making the games, I think it's good that this year having that huge goal and working so hard towards it, having that pay off or hopefully pay off will like just be a cherry on top for the whole year.
yeah. I always like food analogies, so carrots and cherries on top. That's a
Well,
nice way.
I'm
Um, yeah, have like is it so the goal is just to qualify for the games. Have you got like is there a marker for success of like say if you qualify for the games, does that mark your season as a success? Or if you don't qualify for the games, is there a metric for success, say below that step, do you think?
Uh, it depends. There are levels to that for me. There's success in results, and then there's success in training. And I think I've already hit the success in training as far as for myself and, comparing myself to last year. I've just made so much progress in pretty much everything, like strength, gymnastics, everything. So, I'm if I stopped today, I could walk away proud. So, that's kind of what builds the confidence going into the competition.
Yeah. Um, well, look, we'll finish with a quick fire.
Okay.
Um, so, barbell or dumbbell?
Barbell,
Ski or row?
row,
Pull-ups or toast bar?
pull-ups,
Cardio or gymnastics?
cardio,
Run or bike?
bike,
Rings or bar?
rings.
Thrusters or burpees?
Ooh, that's tough. Bur-
Okay, well, look, thanks again for coming on. It's been great to get to talk to you. I hope you do a lot more podcasts. You're a great podcast guest, so I hope we start seeing a lot more of you on different shows as well. Best of luck with Atlas and everything beyond it, hopefully, and your continued success working with Michelle. I hope it's a long and fruitful partnership that you have. And yeah, best of luck with everything. It's been great getting to talk to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me today.